Now, I'm going to do a quick demo with Piskel, just going over creating the avatar and some of the basic tools. And then a lot of what I'm going to talk about is getting files in and out of Piskel and the different types of files that we can create. With Piskel, that's kind of the most important thing to learn when we're starting to create assets or art for our video game. So the first thing I always am going to do is I'm very into organization. I'm going to create a new folder, not just for this project, but for the whole class, just so if I have other stuff that I want to do later, I have everything really organized. So I'm going to call this folder MMP 270, and everything that I need for this class, I'll just put in here, so it'll be easy to find. So then I'm going to open this folder. This opens a little Finder window. I'm going to assume that you guys have like a relative level of, understanding when it comes to some of the basic stuff. But if you guys have any questions, of course, let me know. One thing that I like to do when I'm in the Finder on a Mac is I like to turn on the path bar so I can see where I am on the computer. And I like to go to the view as columns. So this also helps me see like where I am on the computer really easily. I can see like if I click on the desktop, I'm on this folder, I can see everything else that's happening. And so to get started, I'm just going to make a new folder for this particular project. Depending on what you're working on, you may not need like a new folder every single time. You might keep working on a single project. But for now, I'm going to create a folder and just call this my avatar for my first assignment. So I'll put all my files related to my avatar in here. And so that'll help me keep things nice and organized. And yeah, I think that's everything I need for my setup. So now I'll just go ahead and open up Piskel. And I'll go over a couple things with the interface. I just double click the main toolbar to make it larger. Piskel is really, really simple. You can see almost everything that you can do. This is like the only thing that you can't see is this one button. I don't know why they did it that way, but everything else like you can literally see on the screen, except for some of these menu things over here. But most of the stuff you can do is very simple. It's very good for creating simple animations and simple graphics for games. And there's a lot of reasons why I like to use it for this class, but the main one is when we're creating games. If you're an animation student or you're an artist in general, you may be very finicky about having like the perfect drawing for your character or for your background or things like that. That doesn't really work in game design because we often will create something and it doesn't fit or it doesn't work right, and then we have to like scrap it and move on. So as game designers, we want to be able to make something really quickly, see if it looks good, see if it works, and then if it does, we can use it. If we can edit it, tweak it, whatever. But we have to be very willing to move on from stuff that doesn't work because games just kind of work differently. It has to be interactive. People have to be able to use it. There's a lot of other considerations than just how does it look perfect or does it look good. So we like to work really quickly. A couple things about the interface. So I think I mentioned this on Tuesday, but there's this resize section, and the default size for a canvas is 32 by 32. It's very, very small. And it's good to keep that in mind because when you open it, let's say I do a little drawing. If I look at the preview window here, that's how big my drawing is in like real pixels. So the preview window is really useful for that. If you zoom in and out, you'll see you can see the yellow box shows me what I'm looking at, and you can see that it's really, really small. It's blowing up these pixels really, really big. And so it's important to keep that in mind because a lot of time you'll open Piskel, draw something really quick, and then export it, and it's like tiny, and you can't see it. So just keep that in mind. It's really easy to resize things because it's a pixel art editor. Everything has hard edges. So when we blow something up or shrink it down, we don't lose any resolution, which is kind of nice. If I want to make this really big, I can make this avatar like 256 pixels. If I check the resize canvas content, it's gonna size it up, but it's gonna keep those edges for me. And so now my pencil is really, the pencil line is much skinnier than it was before, but my art looked the same. So just keep in mind the sizing, the default sizing is really small. I can change the default size right here if I want to. So I can go, I can put in whatever I want there, and when I open the program, that's how it'll show up. And then the maintain aspect ratio, that just means it's going to be a square. For certain art that you're going to make for your game, you might not want it to be a square. But a lot of sprites, it's easier if they're square. We'll see why when we create some sprite sheets later. But for now, we'll just leave that. Okay, so with my interface, when I'm ready to move on to a new frame, I can just hit N, and it'll create a new frame for me. It's super easy. I can drag these frames around very easily. I can delete them very easily. I can also hit Shift N to duplicate the frame that's currently selected. So if I'm working on an animation, I can just make a whole bunch of frames, and then I can like go between them and add little, effects or whatever I'm doing. And now you can see the preview of the animation there. So it's super, super fast, which is why I like it. And then I can just delete all these frames. I can add a new frame, delete this one, start all over again. So that's the animation is really, really nice for games, which we tend to do frame by frame animation. You can, of course, some of you guys are animation students. You've probably done like rigging and other stuff with characters and done much more complex stuff, which of course you can do. You can export those into sprite sheets and use them in games. But just for like going from 0 to I have a walking character, this is a really fast way to do it. I'm going to draw a little avatar really quickly and then go over a couple of the tools. I'm not going to go over everything because you guys can figure this stuff out. But then I'm going to go over exporting files because that's going to be an important thing. So I'm going to get a slightly larger pen. One thing I like to do if I'm designing a character, I'll talk about this more next week, but I like to make like some type of guide. So let's say I want to make like a little cat character. I can make like a little circle for the middle and then do like a couple lines for the cat's ears and do a couple like circles for the eyes and whatever. And then I'll just go to a new frame and I can turn on the onion skin. And so I can see the previous frame, but now I can take my pen and draw over this. So let's choose a color. I'll choose something like that. And now I can just draw on top of this. So I get like my awesome, hand-drawn look for my cat. Like that. And then I can just delete this frame. And so now, I have like a little guide, but I just get rid of it. I've got something that looks a little bit better. Let's use the eraser. So I just hit E to get the eraser. Let's just make sure the cat connects down here. I'm going to hit P to go back to the pen and connect the cat over here. I'll hit E to erase a little bit and P to fill it in. And then a couple tools that I really like. I'm going to make a couple copies of this to demonstrate a couple different things. So I can fill this in, and I have two colors here. And so if I want, I can like use two colors at the same time. So one, actually, let's demonstrate this real quick. One is just the regular color. And then on the right clicker on the mouse, or like usually one of the alternate, whoops, not that one. Okay, the top clicker on my pen, since that second color is transparent, it actually acts as an eraser. So that's the default, is you actually have like a little eraser there. But I can click on this and set a secondary color. So for my cat, let's fill in the cat with like a lighter shade of purple. And then, so now I can draw with these two colors just by switching between the two. But let's get rid of that. I'm just hitting Command Z to undo. I can use the bucket tool to fill it in. Whoops. But I want to use the left click. Although, oh wait, I switched to shape selection by mistake. I was hitting too many keys at the same time. Let's go back to Paint Bucket tool, and then left click, and there we go. We can fill in with our second color here. Some of these things are a little too small, so I'll just take the pen and just draw on them. Okay. Looks kind of weird. Why does it look weird? I don't know. That's fine. A couple other things that are cool. there's this paint all pixels thing here. And so notice how I have this like purple outline. And if I use the bucket tool, and let's say I want to change the purple outline. Let's say I want to change it to like blue. If I click this, it does change the outline, right? But then I'd have to go through. It doesn't take me that long, but I have to go through and click these other ones. Okay, but there's a cool tool here called Paint All Pixels. If I do that, it paints all of the pixels that have that color, that new color that I selected. So I can really quickly do that. And not only that, if you hover over this, you'll see there's a couple different options. One is apply to all layers. The other is apply to all frames. So remember, I have all these different frames of my cat. If I go here and I hold shift and then fill it in, all of the frames also update that color. So it's really useful if you're creating a character, you have a whole ton of animations, and then you decide like, oh, the character color really doesn't work. I can go in and just redo all of those pixels. And if I decide, that blue is too blue, I want something still more purple, I just go back to that, and there we go. Okay. There's one other tool that I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember. There's a mirror pen, which like I can draw, the same thing on the right or left, top or bottom, or in quadrants. That's really useful. Oh, the Dither tool. So the Dither tool is another thing that I really like. Let's go to this frame. If I fill something in with the Dither tool, I'm just like painting. It uses whatever two colors I've got, and it creates this little dither pattern. So that's really nice for filling in details in different places. Oh, and then the other thing that's really cool is the Lighten or Darken tool. So let's duplicate this guy real quick. If I take the Lighten tool and I go like this, it's gonna take whatever color is there and make it lighter. But the cool thing about this one is if I hold shift, it's only gonna do it one per pixel. So that way I can like take a whole section and lighten it up like that. And then if I do it again, if I hold shift again, I'll make it a little bit lighter. So I can make really cool highlights really easily. Yeah, it's really good for shadows and shading. And then if I do command, it's gonna make it darker. And then if I do command and shift, it makes it darker by 1 pixel. So I'm making my cat look kind of insane, but that's okay. We're just showing some different shading stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff I can do with that. So yeah, those are a few tools. I wanted to show those tools because they're unique to the program. I mean, I'm sure other programs have those things, but they're probably different from like Photoshop or whatever. Also, I should turn the onion skin off because you can see it with the onion skin on. If you're doing that kind of like shading and stuff, it'll be hard to tell what's really happening. I can kind of see through to the other frames, so you might want to turn the onion skin on and off. You can do Alt-O to turn it on and off. Okay, so let's just say this is my avatar, although there are a couple little pixels that are bothering me, so let's just fill these in. So I'm just gonna fill these guys in. Oh, I'm also using the scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in and out. Okay. So obviously I would spend more time on this, making it look better if I was doing it for real, but this is just a demo. But what I want to demonstrate now is the different ways that we can save and export our art from the program. So if I go to the save section, I can save this just like internally, essentially. So if I call this like cat avatar and hit save, now it's like saved inside of Piskel. So if I go to down here, the folder and import, I can browse local saves, and you can see there's my cat avatar. So it's saved like locally where the app saves information on the computer in your library. So if you're using the same computer, it'll be there. So I can quit Piskel and open it up again and go to the folder, browse local saves. There's my cat avatar. I can load that and click OK. Okay, so if I'm just using the same computer, I don't really have to worry about saving a file. If I do want to save a file, I can click Save As, and it's going to do what's called a .piskel file. If I want to save this in my folder, I'm going to use this little drop down on the Mac. I'm going to go to the desktop, MMP 270, avatar, cat avatar, .piskel. I'm going to save. Okay, the .piskel is like a PSD file, if you guys remember Photoshop stuff, or any editing file that you've had. So if you have Premiere, you're gonna have Premiere files. If you have like Logic or Audacity, you're gonna have some files for those edits versus the files that you export, which are gonna be like a movie file or a sound file or an image file. So a Piskel file is just all the stuff, all the layers, all the colors that we use saved together. So if I want to edit something, I can't double click on this because the Mac doesn't know what this is. Maybe I can choose the application. No, it won't even let me choose the application. Or actually, maybe if I say all applications, does it work? No, so it didn't even work because the Mac doesn't really know what this is. So I still have to open Piskel first. But then if I go to the folder and click browse.piskel files, now I can go to my desktop, go to my folder, go to my project, and open the Piskel file. And it's gonna have all my frames. It also has like my whole palette down here with all the colors that I used. It has everything that I need. Okay, so that's saving like the edit file, but I can't post a Piskel file I can't put it in my game. I can't post it online. It's only able to be opened by the Piskel application. So if I want to create an image file that I can use in my game or post online, then I need to go to the export tab. And so you notice there's a bunch of different options for the export tab. Most of what we're going to use is this PNG option, the second option. The GIF option is good if you want to make an animated GIF, but it's not going to work in our game software. We need something called a sprite sheet, which we'll go over a lot more next week. I'll go over it a little bit right now. But so for our PNG, we have some different options. We can download a sprite sheet. That's what we're going to use most of the time with our game. It's not really relevant for this particular avatar assignment, but I just want to show you guys what it looks like. So the default PNG, it's going to say sprite sheet layout options. We don't really care too much about this. You can ignore that. But you can export, you can change the scale. So I can scale it way up, or I can leave it the way it is. So when I click download, I want to make sure to put it in the folder here. And I'm just going to call this sprite sheet. This is just an example. This isn't what we're going to post. But so here's my sprite sheet. You can see what it is it's every frame organized in a nice grid. And when we go over animation next week, you guys are going to see that this is how most 2D games work. They save all the art in these things called sprite sheets. It makes the file organization a lot easier instead of having 6 separate images for one animation, or like 100 images depending on the animation. So it makes the organization a lot easier, and it makes the program, when we're loading stuff at the beginning, it's easier for the program to load in these type of files. So if I wanted to scale it up, or actually let's go to that in a second. So that's the default option for PNG is a sprite sheet. It's going to put all the frames into one image. If we go here to others, we can export selected frame as PNG file. So for the avatar, I obviously can just use one still image. So if I just want this frame that I have selected, I can click download here, and it's going to have the name of my file, and then this is the frame number. So that's frame number 1. It's a PNG image. I can click save. And so now if I go back to my Finder, there's just the single image by itself. So that's what I can use for my avatar. If I want to scale it up, like maybe for Open Lab, it's better to have something that's this one's 256 by 256, which is, you know, it's probably big enough, but let's say I wanted something bigger, I could scale it up by 2. And again, since this is pixel art, we're not going to see any like blurring or like weird effects when we do that. So now I have a bigger one. It looks like it's the same size. I guess in preview, is there a way to say... I don't know how far zoomed in it is. So anyway, I guess, let's see. If I close these and then I open them again, is it obvious that they're different sizes? No, they look the same size. If I scale this one up, does it get blurry? Not really. Okay, I don't know what's going on with preview, but let's just trust that one of them is bigger than the other. No, it's not. Why didn't it? Huh. It is actually just 256 by 256. So let's delete this one and try that again. I'm going to scale it up even more. Download. Okay. I don't know why it's not scaling. Maybe that doesn't work. Let's try scaling up by 2 with our sprite sheets. This might just be like a glitch in the program. Okay, so this sprite sheet is 1024. This sprite sheet is 512. So it did scale up the sprite sheet, but it didn't scale up the single frame. Okay, so that's good to know. If I really wanted to scale it up, I could just go here, resize to whatever I want, and then export it again. But let's not do that now. Okay, so now I've got my avatar here. So I've got my single frame of my image, and I just want to post that on the Open Lab. So I'm gonna go back to the browser. And if you're on the Open Lab page and you're signed in, you're gonna see these buttons up here. If you're not signed in, you won't see those buttons. So if you don't see those buttons, you need to sign in or create an account or whatever. If you're having issues with your account, we'll figure them out, so don't worry about it. For now, obviously until your account is set up, you can't post. So, you know, we'll figure those things out, and then you can post it when you're ready. Anyway, I'm gonna make a new post. So I'm gonna click new post, and see the Wi-Fi is doing something weird. Okay, let's try. See if it works. Okay. Okay, so if you've never used WordPress before, this will look maybe a little confusing. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of features that we don't really need. So like the simple CSS, you can just stick this down here. There's a lot of stuff in here that we don't actually need. The things that we need, we do need some menu stuff. So there's a button right here that toggles this right menu on and off. So you probably want that on. There's other stuff down here in these preferences that we really don't need, so don't worry about that. So under post, there's options for the post itself. And then the way that WordPress works is each content, like the paragraph and the header and different stuff, is called a block. So you can change the parameters of the block. So we do need to select a category. There's no category for this, so I'm going to put this in here, avatar, and click add new category. I'll add the categories for the rest of the assignments eventually. And that's pretty much all we have to do here. So then we can add a title, my avatar, and then we want to work on describing what we're doing as game designers. Even though, you know, it's one thing to be able to create the work, but it's really important to be able to explain to other people what you're doing. As we talked about on Tuesday, very few games are made by one person. Most games are made by a team of people doing very specific different tasks, which is something that we'll talk about throughout the semester. And so when there's a lot of people doing very specific different tasks that all have to fit together, communicating what you're doing is very important. So we always want to have some description of what we're posting. So my avatar is a purple cat because I like cats and the color purple. Doesn't have to be, you know, a novel, just has to explain what's going on. So then there's two ways to add an image into a WordPress post. This works basically the same way on Mac and PC. If I want to drag and drop, I just have to bring up a Finder or File Explorer window and make sure I can see the WordPress interface, and then I just drag, and I need to get a little blue block. If I don't see a blue block, it's not going to work. So once I get that little blue block, I can put it in there, and there we go. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to make a block. So when I'm editing WordPress, I can just like type stuff and it's just part of my post. But if I want to add media or specific things like a list or a header, I have to click on this plus button, and it gives me options for different types of blocks to add. And what we want to add is an image. That's one of the defaults, but if you didn't see it there, you could just type in image to the search bar, and you can see that's the first one that comes up. So I click image. I can actually drag and drop onto here as well, or I can click upload. I can go find my image and click open, and there we go. So I'm gonna click publish here when I'm ready. If I'm not ready, I can preview, so I can click on the little computer and preview in a new tab, and it's probably going to look exactly like what it looks like, but just to double check, there we go. My avatar, we're all good. So I'm going to click publish. It makes me do it twice, so I'm going to click publish again. And now I have my post. I'm going to copy this link because that's what I'm going to submit on Blackboard. I can view the post and make sure it looks good. And the nice thing about the way this blog is set up is if I click on this avatar category, which that didn't exist before, so for some of you guys who've already posted this, you can go back and add it if you want to. But I'll see everything that's posted under avatar here. And it also has my name here. So if I click on my name here, I'll be able to see all of the posts that I've made throughout the semester. One other thing with WordPress, if you made a mistake or a typo or you want to add something, you can edit this stuff. If you're logged in and you're looking at a post that you made, you will see an edit button here. If you're looking at somebody else's post, you won't, or if you're not logged in. So if I click edit, it's going to bring me back to this interface, and then I can make changes here. One other thing with WordPress, since I created it, I have access to everybody's stuff. I can like edit your posts and see what you guys posted and all that stuff. But when you go to the WordPress dashboard, if I click on this W here, you're only going to see your posts. So you'll see a very similar interface, but if you go to posts, you're only going to see stuff that you made, as opposed to, like, obviously right now I can see everybody's stuff because I'm the admin. So if you want to go back and edit old posts, that's another way you can do it. You can go to the dashboard and take a look at your posts there. Okay, so let's go back. And so now I have this post. I'm going to go find it again. And so what you want to submit for the assignment, it's not the end of the world if you don't do this exactly right. But what you want to submit for the assignment is just the link to this post. So up here in the browser bar, I can copy this, or I can hit Command C, and I can go back to Blackboard, and I'm going to turn on Student Preview for a second, and I'll go to Assignments, and here's the first assignment: Open Lab post, create an avatar in Piskel, and use for the Open Lab avatar, post on Open Lab. So I'm going to click on Open Lab post, and all I have to do is click Create Submission and paste this link in here. There's no paste, so I'm just going to hit Command V, and there we go. That's my entire submission. You don't have to put the art in here. I'll just be able to click on this link, I'll look at it, and then I will grade it in Blackboard. There is a rubric. They're pretty simple because a lot of these assignments are quite simple, but if you click on the rubric, you'll see what's required. So you have to make an avatar, you have to make it your Open Lab icon image, and you have to make an Open Lab post. That's it. So we're almost done. When you're done with this part, you could just click Submit. And if you want to start new, you should, if you posted the wrong link or something like that, just click Start New. If I grade it and I say you forgot to do this, and it's, that's why I took off 20 points or whatever, and you want to redo it, you can just redo it and resubmit it, and I'll grade it like it's new. So you can always resubmit assignments if you want to get the points that you missed. Okay, let's leave here. Last step is to make this your avatar on Open Lab, which a lot of you guys have already done. You can see everybody who's added their avatar, so that's great. The way to do this is very easy. If you're logged in, you'll see this drop down over here. You can go to My Profile, and you're gonna have a little image. You can edit the profile, and where is it? Oh, this brought me to something else. Okay, change avatar. So I'm just gonna choose a file. I'm already here, but I would have to go to desktop, MMP 270 avatar. I'm gonna choose this one, upload image. It's gonna ask me to crop. Mine has transparency, which is why this looks black, but it'll just be see-through. So I'm gonna click crop image. It's good to use a square image for this because it's gonna be square. And then I think that's all I have to do. So now if I go to my courses and I go to MMP 270, you can see my avatar is updated. It looks pretty bad. So that's what I'm talking about. You know, when I'm making art, it's not gonna look good in every context, especially this like squished little avatar. So I need like bigger eyes, I need a bigger mouth, I just need, you know, more, it needs to pop a little bit more. So I'm not gonna do this right now, but I should go back in Piskel and rework this a little bit and then repost it. But anyway, you don't have to do that. It doesn't really matter what this looks like. This isn't our game yet. We're gonna start making that next week. Okay. I'm gonna stop recording here.